Hello, TebbyBear people. This is DerTebbers coming at you again. We have today an interview. We have Duke from Duke Farming. He's agreed to hang out. I don't know why he agrees to hang out with me, but he agreed to hang out and answer questions, or so he thinks. Though, if he's watched the podcast with Stocko, he might have regretted saying yes. Hello, Duke.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you doing?
All right.
Are you nervous now?
Yeah, now I'm nervous. Yeah.
Well, for the benefit of everybody who's been following me, and some of the people that have said at various times, hey, you focus a lot on Duke stuff. I just wanted to go back over how we first got to talking to each other, and it all involves that wonderful episode of Farm Sim Mod Spotlight when I ragged on all of your semis.
Well, I wouldn't say ragged. You pointed out the obvious.
Well, yeah, and then uh, through various methods, we started talking, and then because you just have had so many mods and of quite a variety, it just felt natural that I would go through each and every one of your mods and make fun of them, or allow you to make fun of me afterward on TeamSpeak when I derped up terribly driving your mods.
Right.
So I guess the first question that everybody would have is you a couple weeks ago stopped your website and you stopped modding. And some people know why because I believe your wife posted on my Facebook. But why did you stop modding?
Well, this whole this last 6 months, I really got involved in doing the website and or trying to do a website and trying to do the mod and stuff, and I was devoted a lot of time to it, and then it just got overwhelming. The uh, people were downloading the map, which then crashed Dropbox, which then was going to cost me a whole lot of money, and it kind of took time away from my wife and little one, and I just kind of want to just sit back and kind of take a breather.
So you've left open the possibility you might come back?
Well, actually, there's a plan to maybe work with another website or something in the near future. I'm not sure exactly what all we're going to do, but seeing Jim, or which is Les Lane, has been helping me with modding and stuff. So it's kind of one of them things that's up in the air. There's no definite yet, but there's a possibility you might see my stuff back on a website somewhere.
Excellent. And of course, I've said it in the podcast, and we're still working on it, trying to figure out how to host what you already had done on the Stocko Gloss website. And for those people that are still frothing at the mouth for the map, we're trying to figure out a way to do it. I promise, we're working on it. And it's not just Duke is giving me the okay. It's just a matter of how do we do it on Stocko's website. So there's a chance that you'll come back and we'll have more semis, which I think a lot of people are excited about, because I think that's probably your primary focus was really seemed to be semis.
Well, I drive a truck for a living, so you naturally, it's one of the things that I like, and um, one of the things that if it interests me, I definitely will make it. And um, but there are other things that well, that interest me more than just semis, and it depends on really what I'm doing in the game and whether or not I need something. A lot of people is like, well, there's probably a mod out there for me. It's just like I'll just go build it. So, and then there's those that, we used to have a deal where they would send in mod requests, and, I think a lot of the people were like, how's come I don't do a lot of the mod requests? And that's simply because if I'm not passionate about it, I don't want to make junk. Even though, my stuff is kind of, it's got its own issues and little problems here and there and stuff like that. But if it doesn't look good and doesn't actually do its function in the game, I don't want to make it.
Right.
So
Is that what got you into modding? Was just making stuff that you felt was missing in the game?
yeah, what actually happened was is I played 2011, and I was a big fan of Nagstad that made a lot of mods, which they tried to convert over, and you did a mod spotlight on one of them, which was that John Deere air cart air seeder, which
Hmm.
I used quite a bit in 2011. But it I did modding with his, using his scripts, but I never published anything. And then 2013 came along, and my first mod was a that case precision hoe and air cart, and I wanted one. I looked around, and couldn't find anything that was big that, did both applications, and I was just like, well, I think I can make it. So I went and made it. Then I played with it for quite a while, and I was like, I bet people out there would love to have something like this because you don't see it. And I was like, I'll go upload it here. I'll try and upload it there, and got shot down from many of the websites. So I was like, all right, I'll just make my own. And from that point on, I got a website and started doing stuff for the public.
Excellent. And then some crazy guy named DerTebbers stumbled upon your mods.
Yeah, when you stumbled upon them, that shot that shot me in the foot, kinda, because I got more people than I knew what to do with, and it that got overwhelming. And then I had some help, and I come back and I shut it down. I shut the website down then because I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. People want this and want that, and all the nasty comments, but we won't go into that. But it I ended up getting some help and come back and kind of really dove into it kind of hard there for a little while.
Right. It became more of a job, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it really it did. It was drive a semi all day, come home and work on the website, work on the TeamSpeak, work on the dedicated server that we ended up getting, and then dealing with all the drama that came along with it. It was just, it was another job.
Right. I understand completely, actually.
Yeah, you know what I'm going through.
So, do you envision? Well, let's talk a little bit about the mods in 2013 because I think me and Stocko talked about this a little bit. Like when 2013 first came out, the mods were kind of a poor quality. You'd get really good converts every once in a while, but overall it was pretty poor quality. And then suddenly the quality just ramped up and became really good. And now I think most of us feel like we've it's either hit a plateau or it's starting to taper back off. Do you feel that that is truly what happened? Do you think that's a reaction to the fact that it's called Farming Simulator 2013 and we're now entering 2014?
I I think what it is people started off not knowing the changes, and once they did notice the changes, then they really started pumping out stuff. And now they've worked so hard on what they have made, they've burned themselves out. So it's just a thing where a lot of them's gonna probably take a little breather, and then one day, and you never know when, but you might see it ramped up even more. Who knows? I but the thing that I can say about a lot of the modders is that when you do it and you do it for a period of time and you focus on that, and some of these guys, it takes a month to create one mod, and it's there's a lot of work involved in it, and once you get it all done, you want to play with what you made. So
Right.
I don't think it's that it's just tapered off like this is as good as it's going to get. I think it's just people just burn themselves out on modding for right now, kind of like the way I did.
Right. Do you, I know I think in a couple of spotlights that involved your vehicles, I pointed out the lack of, all the extras, and you had said when we talked about that you didn't put in those extras because it made the multiplayer work better. And I don't know if you've played with the John Deere 7R tractors that have the shuttle in them that you actually have to physically shift the tractor into forward and reverse. But do you think that if we take multiplayer out of the equation, or if Giant makes multiplayer better, do you envision more modding going in the way of those John Deere 7Rs that are extremely detailed, or more people looking to just get really nice looking mods that work at the functional level out, sort of like what you're doing?
Well, what I would love to see is Giants giving us a platform that would allow those intricate things where, I mean, you have shuttle control. Actually, you have a hydrostat on these tractors, yeah, and you have a clutch, and you have shifting gears, and I'd love to see that to where it would, their platform would allow it. But right now, there there's only so much you can do, and the reason why I don't use that stuff is because I do play multiplayer and we do a dedicated server, and when those 7Rs particularly, on a lower end computer, it'll just crash the computer. You can't even get into the game, and because there's so much going on in the background, a lot of people don't realize. There's extra buttons that are being mapped, and Giants has already got that stuff like written in their basic game engine, so all that stuff is just it comes naturally with certain buttons and stuff for certain things to do. And if you go outside that and you start creating this new stuff, you create these conflicts. And you know for instance, like there's a Brent Avalanche out there that come from 2011. It's an overloader, not like mine. Mine I redone and tried to make it on the multiplayer side, rescaled it to my liking. And because another thing too with the scaling, um, I will say this: everything that I do with my mods, and a lot of people have said that, they're smaller. I scaled them to what Giants, you know, scale is,
Right.
and they don't really have that much of a scale. But on the whole aspect of getting back to the subject at hand, getting the luas. Well, a lot of people don't even know what luas are, but the scripting, which is what makes the mod work, um, you can only do so much, and you really need to use what giants give you in order to play multiplayer. Now, outside multiplayer, if you want to play single player, oh yeah, the hats off to you. I mean, you can have just about anything you want. If you
Okay.
got a good, if you got a guy that knows how to go in and write that stuff, Nagstead was one of the best, I think, that do the scripting and stuff like that there for those animations and the things that he done in 2011, you know, single player only, and that's what he mainly played. So, you know,
So, would it be fair to say that probably one of your biggest wishes for Farming Sim 2015 is a better system for that, or do you have other things out there that you're like, you know what, when Farm Sim 2015 comes out, or I guess they might call it Farm Sim 15 since they called it 14 this year, is are there other things out there that you'd want ahead of the better support for the mods?
Well, it's not so much the support for the mods. If they built their game engine around the ability for animations like that, I mean, they've got the regular animations, the folding and the, lowering up and down and, basic movement and stuff like that. But if they allowed it to where it was kind of like, I don't know, maybe 18 Wheels of Steel or even uh, Euro Sim, where the inside of the cab, you see when you turn on the lights, the dash lights come on. You have a button that's mapped for your turn signals and your gear shift and your clutch. And, if they would give us something like that, like, any of the good, simulation games, like even Forza and stuff like that, there, all that stuff is there. And you see it being moved and stuff like that there. And I know they did the Xbox game. It's pretty much the same as the PC version. It's just it's on the console. But
Right.
if they went more towards the simulation aspect, because right now it's kind of a simulator, but it's not a full-fledged simulator.
Right.
It's not like Flight Simulator or anything like that there. But if they
I
went
think
more towards that, the mods would be tremendously different.
right. I think Stocko nailed it when he made up the word consoleized. That Farm Sim feels even in its pre-console release very consoleized, very arcade-like,
Hmm.
versus something like what UIG has attempted to do with their various incarnations, where you actually physically have to perform those actions.
Right. Yeah, I would love to see it more of on the full-fledged simulation, because I mean there wouldn't I mean it would be neat as all get out if you take what UGI or our agricultural simulator, and then you take farming simulator, you take the stability of farming simulator, and then you add the graphics, you add the physics, the well, better physics. I'll say that, because agricultural simulators physics kind of stink. Um, but if you take all that stuff and you combined it all together and you give a good solid game, it would be more, because then even the guys that are true farmers out there, they get behind the wheel of something in game and go, I can use this the same way as I do out on the field. That would just blow people's minds.
Right.
And get do like what Forza did, and Gran Turismo and those guys, go out, get get an idea from a farmer. Get up in one of these big tractors and see how it works, how it functions, all the stuff you have to do, and then throw that in the game.
Right. Well, but I would question how far could they go before it gets to the point where only a farmer could actually do it.
Well,
But
I, I
I see where you're going, but I would be concerned about how far you can go in the opposite direction because I think Farm Sim sits right on the edge of going over into arcade and becoming just another arcade game. Where Agrisim, and from what I've seen from Stocko's play of the new Professional Farmer, which is actually stable so far from UIG, which has shocked everybody, I think, um, they've unfortunately or fortunately, Professional Farmer has moved UIG's product closer to Farm Sim in some respects, but it still holds on to that more, I don't want to say real, but more reality based simulator. Um,
well,
I don't.
I mean, there's those options out there. I mean, there's used to I played like NASCAR 2003 or racing. That was a simulator made by Papyrus. They went on to make an online uh, racing website and stuff, and there's a lot you can do with the PC, and there's a lot that you can add to the games. But give it an option. If
Right.
somebody doesn't want the full-fledged simulator, click arcade. You can go back to playing like it used to be.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. I'll throw a question at you that was asked towards me and Stocko on our podcast, and I actually do know the answer to this. But what's with the lack of rain in Farming Simulator 2013?
I, that baffles me because in 2011, I mean, it seemed like it rained every other day. Um, I think it's just their way of, way for the game to be easier to play, I guess, so people don't go, oh, it's raining, I can't get my crops in. So, it more the arcade type thing.
Right. For the person that asked, you can edit your game to put in more rain. It just takes a little bit of research because for anybody who watched season 2 of my Let's Play where it rained every single day, that was done by me by editing the save game file. I actually made it so that the game would rain every day because that map was so terribly optimized that I needed to write that map out of the cycle. So that's actually why we left early because the map was terribly optimized. Um,
Well, see,
though,
like that rain
though,
thing,
yeah,
that the way you did that, to actually do that through the just by enabling the developer controls, and you can bring those up in your game and hit help, and it'll tell you the actual thing. You can just sit there and set rain time, and it'll actually do it while you're playing the game. You can just tell it to rain.
right. Yeah, I did it the harder way by editing the file.
Right.
I didn't want to have to remember to do the developer console every time. Some people have pointed out, rightly so, I think, that your map that I'm using has some serious problems. One of them being that it crashes whenever you try to abort the game. And I wanted to kind of get your answer because I've tried to flub through an answer because you've told me I think twice or three times why it does that, and I just can't remember. So why does your map, as I am using it, crash out when you try to abort?
Well, I've actually had quite a few people look at it, and the answer is we don't know. Um, it's something that Giants, when they went to this new 2.0, they've added in and changed a whole lot of the way that the log file reads, and the way the game reads its scripts and stuff. So, um, I there's been numerous people trying to figure that out, and the only thing we can say is it's something to do with the game engine itself, and you know, I just there.
Right.
Uh, it doesn't really cause a real big hindrance, except it just gets you out of the game faster when you abort. But
Yes, the quick exit.
yeah, it's a quick exit. Um, and technically that is an old C++ error anyway. And we've asked Giants. There's guys that I know that's worked with that kind of works with Giants, and asked them exactly what the reason is, and they don't know. So, it, yeah.
Right. Okay, hopefully that cleared it up for everybody who's asked. The I guess the have you seen much of Professional Farmer 2014 from UIG?
No, I haven't. I have, uh, like I said, just been so busy with everything that was going on with the website and stuff like that. There, I haven't really looked at any other games or really done anything else other than modding or the website or the TeamSpeak or the server.
Well, then, I guess you have to add it to your list of games to try out. Because I was wondering, you mentioned I think at one point when we were on TeamSpeak that you tried to play Agrisim.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people who have tried to play Agrisim and have made it through various degrees of success. And we mentioned Agrisim earlier. If if Agrisim was stable and and they accepted mods onto Agrisim, do you see Agrisim as being true competition for Farming Sim, or do you think Farming Sim would still, because Farming Sim sold millions of copies, whereas Agrisim is still a niche player in this? Do you think if they were stable, which Professional Farmer appears to be, and accepted mods, do you think they would truly become a worry for Giants?
Well, this is my personal opinion. I'm I played one of the aggro sims, and it was right around when I was playing with 2011, and even the way it was, if it would have been stable, I would have went and played it rather than playing Farming Simulator, simply due to the graphics are just so much better.
Hmm.
I mean,
You,
that
in Agrisim.
yeah, in
Yeah.
AgroSim, yeah, because I mean, you see your tracks, and when you're running across the ground, you see the tires actually digging into the ground. There's the mud and stuff like that. There, they could tone it down on how fast it gets muddy, but nevertheless, the thing is, you have that aspect of realism,
Mhm.
and the way you worked with the animals and stuff, I thought was really cool. If the stupid thing would just let me keep my equipment, I would have been playing that.
Right. Yeah. So far, Stocko's only complaint is if you leave stuff attached to your tractor, you end up with a space tractor. But I think that bug has been in every UIG game since time immemorial. So I don't think that'll ever go. It's not, an homage bug. You'll always remember the original UIG.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the way you have to load your seeder. You have to, you physically have to do this stuff. You get out, you walk around, you hook the stuff up, and I think that's neat.
Well,
Uh,
I will say that did change in professional farming. Professional farming, you use Q to hook up your attachments. I wonder where they got that.
yeah.
But I mean, I do see where you're coming from in that respect. It certainly it's a different game than Farming Simulator in many ways.
Yeah.
So I hope that I do hope that since you gave us that little tease at the beginning where maybe we'll see you back. I hope I think I speak for a lot of people that we hope that you do come back, maybe in a reduced capacity. Balance the family, but a few mods here and there wouldn't hurt.
Well, there is, I haven't like stopped modding. I just have toned it back some, and there is a V4 for the Duke farming map one day. I will say that. Um, there's possibility of a new cedar and air cart in the future. So, too bad it's not. I don't know if it'll be ready or not by the time that you do your um, spotlight for the um, awards or whatnot, because I think I'd be in competition with myself with the two air seeders, because one's a little smaller. The one that we're and well, yeah, there's some other guys helping me with it, but it's a little smaller. It does the same has the same functions as the big one. It's just able to be pulled by a 340.
Oh, okay.
and it'll help you, with the smaller fields rather than the big ones for like the big fields, like like on the Duke Farming map that you're playing on, and the new one is for the V4.
Right.
So,
So, there's a point. Tell everybody why I'm having such a terrible time getting good yield out of the Duke farming map, because I'm sure some of them don't realize why I struggle so badly.
well, that's due to that map is, and the way I build these maps, and the way I do just about everything, I try and make it as on the realistic side and on the most difficult side. So, even the trucks, you're using the bullnose, which drinks fuel. Um, it's an older truck, so it doesn't have all this new fuel economy stuff that a lot of the newer trucks have. Um, the combines and stuff like that I've edited in the past, everything is for a real to hardcore difficult type playing, so it never gets boring. The map actually has scripts that are built into it, which a lot of people's like, well, I can't play with this map because every time I put your map in, there's a conflict. Well, that's because in that map there is a real yield Lua that um, gives you lower yields on your crops. So if you don't fertilize, you're not going to make any money whatsoever. Um, there's also scripts in there for your trucks, tractors, combines. When you're doing something with them, they'll actually use more fuel. And then there's the um, real fuel, which I think is like $3.46 a gallon, which is, I'm not for sure what that is in liters, but because the game goes by liters, and I had to do the math and everything to figure out what that would all be. But I make all these maps extremely challenging, and the V4 is, I think, one of the most challenging that I've made so far. Um, because the whole aspect of it is you got to drive a long ways away to get anywhere, to get to anything, and that's due to you know a farmer builds, has his farm. His local mill ain't necessarily just a block across the street, or I mean,
Right.
there's sometimes he's got to drive states to get the best price. um the thing is, with the map, that's why I wanted it to be created. And then with the V4, the big fields as you know them are no longer there. There are smaller fields inside of those big fields. So there is even more of a challenging. They've got breaks. They're not square. They're crooked. They got trees, and some of them might have trees in the middle of them. You got to plow around them. It's that whole aspect of the realism that goes on in you know the United States. There's 5 farms. The cow farm is all by itself. The pig farm's all by itself. There's a um, sheep farm that's all by itself. So nothing's together. And then if you don't want to mess with the animals, then there's a farm for you that you can just do crops or whatnot. And yeah,
It sounds like a much deeper challenge than even the one that I'm using, which is enough of a challenge, I think, of itself to do by yourself. I feel like a lot of your maps are really made to fit into a server for multiple people to work,
yes.
rather than one poor guy trying to work the entire thing himself.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Get your buddies, and that's one reason why I do the multiplayer thing. Get your buddies. I mean, download the mods. You know, That was my motto. Get the mods, get with your friends, get on the map. Everybody take a section. I mean, it's
Right.
big enough that you can have 8 people even, or we never actually got up to the 16 that we had, but we had 8 people on there, and even with 8 people, um, there was still a lot left to do even after we got done with just one small section in the bottom.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, it's been great talking to you. I'm sure that several of my subscribers will have more questions, and if you have questions for Duke, comment comment section down below. Just drop a question down there. If he doesn't see it, I'll see it because I read all of them, and maybe we'll have to have you back for another interview at some point in the future. Maybe when V4 is out and you're releasing more mods, and I can I can rag on some of your new mods and point out every single flaw that I find, even if it's not
Oh
really a flaw.
yay! I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You look forward to any of my mod spotlights when I'm using your equipment because I know you watch them going, oh, he's going to screw up right here. That's where the screw. Oh, yep, there he goes.
Well, it's not so much that. Actually, I take away from a lot of things, and I need to start doing um, some of those little deals, like with the when you go to buy the stuff. Yeah, it needs to know. People need to know what it's capable of handling. People need to know, what its capacity is. Um, I listen to a lot of that stuff. I can't speak for everybody, but um, that it's a good tool because if somebody's pointing out, hey, I wish it had this, because this would be really helpful for, this would let me know why I need to buy it, which makes sense. And
Right.
I have kind of looked at that, and in the future, I'm gonna start putting that stuff in rather than just a derp uh, little sales pitch or whatnot.
Yes, the little sales pitch. Well, it's still, the sales pitch is still important. You still need that.
Mm,
All right. Well, um, I think we'll stop the interview here. If you have questions for Duke, things I didn't cover or things you just wonder about, drop a comment down below. That's what my comment section is for. He sometimes views my videos, but usually he runs the other direction. No, I'm kidding. Um, but if he doesn't answer, I will certainly collect the ones that are semi-relevant or even slightly relevant, and send them on to Duke and see if I can get you guys answers. Don't ask for mod help. Don't ask for new mods. None of that. You heard Duke. He's working on a new map. He's hoping maybe in the future he'll come back into some modding a little bit. He has been modding a little bit. He mentioned, um, but let's hope he comes back full time because, well, not full time, but where we can get your mods, um, and not just on Stocko's website, which I promise we'll do it sometime. I just me and Fad have to figure out how to fit that all onto the server. All right, so thank you, Duke.
thanks. Good to be here.
And until I have another interview, and if you are a modder, either Euro Truck or Farm Sim, and you actually want to talk to me instead of just cringe every time one of your mods shows up on my spotlight, feel free to contact me. You can contact me down below. There's the forums. They're down there in the description. You can private message me there. And you can use my email. It's really obvious. You should be able to guess it, I promise. But you can send also to my YouTube private message. And yeah, I don't mind talking to you. I usually am not mean. Sometimes I am. But usually I'm not. All right, till next time when I find somebody else to interview, some poor person who doesn't realize what they're getting into. It's been DerTebbers. Y'all take it easy.